In today's Leeds news, Red Bull stake reduced, Dan James contract situation, patient approach needed for Gray, clock ticking on McAtee, and striker position a priority. Morning folks, welcome back to The View for Thursday morning, the 22nd of May with your Leeds United news. Hope you've had a good week so far. There's a bit of stuff to get stuck in today, won't hang around too long. Just again, a reminder the Creator Cup is taking place July 20th, John Charles Stadium or Centre for Sport, whatever you want to call it. Tickets £7 for adults, £3 for kids. Detail down below. Will be a family fun day as well. It'll be great to see everybody there. Let's crack on. Move on and start with the news, and the first thing to talk about is Red Bull's stake being reduced at Elland Road. In the wake of new shares being issued to existing stakeholders, Red Bull's minority stake is said to have now been reduced. This doesn't mean that Red Bull have reduced their stake themselves. This is due to the increasing of stake by other investors that has simply just watered down Red Bull's current investment. City AM are reporting that Red Bull's stake is now said to be below 10% at the club due to declining the offer to take up new shares. As a club, Leeds United have not posted an operating profit since 2017, and even when they did do it during that period, it was less than £1 million, and that doesn't signal an exit strategy from Red Bull at all. And recently, Red Bull and 49ers Enterprises both embarked on a £1 billion plan for Leeds United's future, an investment to grow the club into the Premier League years, including stadium reinvestment as well as team reinvestment. Football finance expert Kieran Maguire has explained the levers that Leeds United could pull to create more headroom in the finances coming into this summer and future transfer windows, and he said the following. Leeds lost a lot of money in 23-24 and one would expect substantial losses for 24-25 as well, including promotion bonuses. So I think fans will have to taper expectations of a huge transfer investment over the next summer. But having said that, the sales that they have made have reduced their wage bill and brought in substantial player trading profits as well. For Leeds, I think it will be a case of being smart rather than simply going big. And having said that, I think an investment of £100 million is feasible given the contracts of new signings will be amortised over a 5-year period. As we know, Leeds have increased their investment. Investors have increased their investment by an additional 120 million. Not all of that will go into players. Half of that at least will go into Elland Road, with the rest of it being put into filling the gaps from player purchases. The initial fund looked between 90 and 120 million. This adds to that. So Leeds could have a transfer budget of in and around 150, 160 million, up towards 200 million, depending on what they need to do this summer. But wages are also a factor in that money and need to be taken into consideration and will take a chunk out of that kitty. Red Bull's short deal with Leeds is expected to bring in more revenue, with promotion being confirmed, as well as improved financials from Adidas as part of the extension that Leeds have signed for the deal with them. So all of that together means Leeds have more money coming in. But as Kieran Maguire said, we need to be careful around what we do. But that the reduced stake with Red Bull isn't the factor of them leaving the club or pulling away, simply just down to other stakeholders increasing their investment, which has watered down theirs. We move on. Let's talk about some contract situations at the club. And Leeds United Player of the Year Daniel James is approaching the end of his current Leeds United deal, and Leeds will need to move soon to tie the player down. James was one of Leeds United's most impactful players over the past 2 seasons, and the earlier criticisms during his career of just being fast are long behind him, as his end product has significantly improved over the past 2 years, an impact that Daniel Farke may have had on the player. Leeds won't allow James to leave this summer despite entering the final year of his current deal, and James did become the first Leeds United player to score double figures in a season since John Charles did that 60 years ago. Leeds had said previously that any new contract deals would be left until after the promotion had been confirmed. That is now done and in Leeds' rearview mirror, which now seems like a no-brainer for Leeds to go and lock Dan James down in the peak years of his career. The player himself will likely be a factor in this, what he wants to do, but Dan James has always seemed very settled and happy at Leeds United, and on the back of a very successful season last year, you would hope that James would stick around for a bit longer, and Leeds will lock this one down nice and early, and means that we don't have to go into a season, the final year of his deal, looking at potential clubs outside of the UK approaching him in January around a pre-contract agreement. But I don't see it happening. I would imagine he'll still be a Leeds player for a while to come. Yep, we'll wait and see on that one. Let's move on. Let's talk about a patient approach needed for Harry Gray. And as Harry Gray looked on last night as his older brother Archie became a European champion, maybe with a little bit of envy, but likely with an awful lot of pride, you wouldn't be surprised if Harry sees similar accolades in his future as well. Gray has shown that he is not short of confidence since he's come into the Leeds United first team, and manager Daniel Farke has previously spoken about his ability and how he carries himself around the training ground. But with Leeds going back to the Premier League next season and likely be bringing in at least one new striker, a patient approach for Harry Gray is needed. Farke clearly sees value in Harry Gray, but has asked fans to regulate their enthusiasm and expectations on the player and give him time to develop. And on that, Farke said the following: 16 years old, 8 minutes of championship football, and we are speaking about Premier League. So I would strongly recommend to calm down. Just because his last name is Gray, it doesn't mean that he's going to cut the Premier League into pieces. Let's not praise him too much. It's never healthy for a young player. We will give him the time to develop properly, but when I get the feeling that he is ready to and prepared to get minutes in the first team level, he will get these. Farke went on to talk about a step-by-step approach with Harry Gray, and he will be part of a more competitive side next season. So he will need some patience around his minutes. Last season, at this point of the year, a large portion of people online wanted Mateo Joseph to be the front runner and lead the line for Leeds this season, which, as the season went on, it became apparent that Mateo isn't ready just yet. I think he will be, but not just yet. And some of those fans turned on him because Joseph didn't reach their expectations of him. So as Daniel Farke says here, when he's ready, and he'll get that time. But we do need to taper expectation a little bit with him and give him time to develop. And as we say, development is never a straight line. He'll have ups and he'll have downs. He'll have bursts of moments where he steps on in his career, and he'll have moments where he stagnates and drops back a little bit. But there is definitely quality in Harry Gray. All we're asking for, all Daniel Farke is asking for here, is just give the player a little bit of time to develop at his own pace. Let's move on and talk about the interest around James McAtee, and not just from Leeds United, but according to reports in Germany, the race for James McAtee will be a short and sharp one, with multiple clubs now said to have submitted offers for the player, and Leeds have been confirmed as inquiring about the attacker. Sky journalist Florian Plettenberg says that the 22-year-old has received multiple offers from England and the Bundesliga, as well as inquiries, with Bayer Leverkusen said to be the favourites for his signature at the moment. However, Leverkusen's race for the player may be slowed slightly, given the fact that they are now looking at bringing in a new manager after Xavi Alonso has moved on, and that is likely to slow down their pursuit. Plettenberg said that Manchester City still expect an exit of McAtee this summer, and Pep Guardiola's comments this week about wanting the Man City board to thin his squad will likely impact this as well. Pep went a step further to say that if Manchester City didn't reduce his squad, he would leave the club. And in Leeds, as I say, are said to be very keen on McAtee as well as Emi Buendia, and they are the two front runners at the moment that Leeds are looking at for that number 10 position coming into the summer. So we'll keep an eye and see what happens with that one. Moving on to the last story of the day, and one that links Leeds with a striker, and according to reports, new Leeds transfer Supremo Adam Underwood is prioritising a new number 9 or striker in the summer window. Joel Pirot had a very good season for Leeds United last year, but did have barren spells bookmarked either side by flurries of goals. And there is also still speculation around the future of Mateo Joseph at the club. Leeds have been linked with multiple strikers. The likes of Beto, Callum Wilson and Jamie Vardy have all been linked, and most of them appear to come from their agents touting them out to other clubs, more so than Leeds genuinely having any interest in them. But a name that came up last week and is gaining more and more traction in the news online is Vladislav Vanat. Vanat's release clause has randomly been released to the press, which likely weakens Dynamo Kyiv's position and their desire to hold on to the player until at least after their European qualifiers have taken place this summer. TBR Football are reporting that Leeds United Supremos have been impressed with the player, and the officials are said to see potential in him, as well as being impressed by the current numbers that he's delivering right now. Reports earlier this week claimed that Leeds had real interest in Vanat, and reports now coming from Football 24 have said that the player's release clause is said to be £17 million, which means if Leeds or any other club offer that amount of money to Kyiv, they will have to accept that with no option to refuse, which means a deal for the player could get done quicker than they wanted to or that anybody expected. Vanat currently is 23 years of age. He's played 129 games, scoring 51 goals and adding 22 assists. So a GNA of 73 for the player. And he's averaging, when you look at his minutes on the pitch, he's averaging a goal every 123.8 minutes, compared to Joe Pirro, who scored 84 goals in 227 appearances. Vanat is an exciting prospect and is seen as one of the future players and stars for Ukrainian football, and his current numbers suggest that it's not just potential with the player, that there's actually genuine quality in him right now. Players coming in from outside of England or especially toward the Eastern European leagues are always a bit of a gamble. The player looks like he's got some serious talent there right now. There will likely be other interested in him, but £17 million would represent a relatively risk-free move at Premier League level for a player, would be seen as a cheap deal. So we'll see if Leeds do make a move for the player at any point over the course of the summer, and if he is a player that comes in. We will have a closer look at this next week when we start looking at the players linked around the profiles of players that Leeds are looking to bring in and who fits Daniel Farke's style for next season. But as of today, that will be it for me today, folks. Massive thank you as always for supporting the channel. Back in the morning for some Leeds news. Talk to you then. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you then.